Hi everyone, and welcome to another Figma tutorial. In this video, we're going to be creating a user flow, meaning some kind of interaction or some kind of path that the user can take through your prototype or through your app. As you can see, the goal of this prototype is to protect some kind of confidential secret content. This prototype illustrates how specifically could such an interaction actually take place. There will be two different outcomes based on whether you enter or quote-unquote enter the correct or the incorrect password. In one case, the secret content will be unlocked, and in the other one, it will get you back to the beginning of this interaction. As usual, if you'd like to download the source file for this project, make sure to check the link in the description. That will take you to my store. And now, let's take a look at how we can create this in Figma. I will press F on my keyboard to enable the frame tool, and then under frame and under phone right here, I'm gonna select iPhone 13 Pro. I will rename this frame by pressing Command R and type in screen. I'll then also duplicate this screen and I'm gonna name this password protection. Now I'm gonna create a rectangle by pressing R and then clicking anywhere, and I will resize this rectangle to be around 36 pixels. I'm gonna make this slightly wider than it is taller, so let's say 36 by 32 or 28, and then I'm gonna again duplicate this rectangle, rotate this, make it more narrow, and disable the fill and enable the stroke. Additionally, I want to make sure this is rounded, so I'm going to go over here to this section and enter corner rounding right here to get this kind of result. Then I'm going to center this stroke and make it a little bit wider to be around 4, 5, 6, around that area, which also means I'm going to change the color both of this rounded rectangle as well as this bottom rectangle. Then I'm gonna select this top rectangle, press enter, click this line until it turns blue like this, and then hit backspace to remove the bottom part of this rectangle. What I get is this, and since I'm already in the shape editing mode, you can recognize that by having this button done over here. I can now move individual vertices, individual points to edit this shape however I'd like. So in our case, I think we're going to go for this hook shape over here, and then I'm going to center these two, select both of these, press Option H, center. They have been already centered, never mind. Then I'm going to move this all the way to here. So what you're looking at right now is a lock icon, and we're going to use this in our user flow prototype. I'm going to also round this lock, meaning adding like 4 or 5 corner rounding, and then maybe make it a bit wider again so that it all looks, proportional. I think this works, and I'm going to also rename this top rectangle to be called top part, and then bottom part for the second one, and finally select both of these and turn those into a component. This component, of course, is going to be called lock, and it's going to have two variants. You can probably guess which two variants we're talking about. These are going to be unlocked and locked, meaning the first one is going to be locked and the second one is going to be unlocked. Of course, it also needs to look unlocked, which means I'm going to select the top part, move it a few pixels upwards, flip it by pressing Command H, Shift H, and then I'm going to move it all the way over here, and also I'm going to make sure this distance right here is identical to this one. I can make sure that's the case by clicking and dragging over here to create a new guide. You can see that we have a half pixel distance from the guide to the top part over in this state, and here it seems to be the case as well, which means it's all right. It's the way this kind of side is in an identical place in both cases. Maybe I want to move this, slightly towards the bottom, and our lock icon is ready. We have two states, locked and unlocked. Now let me just quickly select the text tool and type in confidential, just confidential. It's going to be a huge over the home page, just so that we can identify this is just a placeholder, so you don't have to pay attention to this. And then over here I'm gonna use the text tool again and type in with a smaller font though, so like 20. I'm gonna type in this content is password protected. Enter your password to continue. I'm gonna resize this, center it against the screen, and make the text also align to the center. Of course, I'm switching keyboards, so it's gonna be your. I think I'm gonna go for like 18 font size so that this whole thing fits on 2 rows. I will then go to assets and use the lock icon right here. I'm gonna also duplicate this text and type in enter password. I'm gonna make this smaller, so let's say 15 pixels. I'm gonna switch text resizing to auto width, and I'm gonna make this very heavy, or maybe just bold. I'm gonna add some letter spacing, and then I'm gonna select this again, press Shift A, and add background to create a button like this. I'm gonna also adjust the padding over here under auto layout to around 20 and 12. And also go for rounded corners a little bit, just a tiny amount, about 6. Then I'm gonna duplicate this, make the vertical padding a bit more significant, around 18. And I'm gonna select the text and just paste in a few bullet points so that it looks as if we've entered some kind of password, right? I'm gonna also make sure that both of these are set to both of these text objects. So I'm pressing Command and then Shift clicking, so Command, Shift and click, and set both of these to fill container. This will make sure that the text object is expanding to the whole width. I think I'm gonna make this about 240 pixels and then select all of this and press Shift A. This will add auto layout, which means we can adjust these values, the spacing between individual items. I think I'm gonna go for 16. Now let's add a bit of color. So text fields, they are usually white, which means we also have to change the background color to see, to actually recognize the text field against the background. I'm gonna make this text field white, and then for the button, I think we could do like some kind of strong accent color, like blue, something like this. I'm gonna also turn the text to white and then select the whole group. I will call this group content and then press Command Option G to wrap, to create a frame around this content. This frame, I'm just gonna extend this all the way to the edges, and then I'm gonna go over here to constraints with the frame selected and go for left and right and top and bottom. Also, I will rename this frame to be called content container. And what you can notice right now is that when I change this whole frame, this password protection frame, when I do this, for example, you can see that the content container is being resized as well. So that's our goal. I'm gonna revert the changes. And then when I select content, I'm gonna go for center and center under constraints, right? And center again this whole content against the frame. You can see that even though this is precisely geometrically centered, it looks a little bit weird to be in this specific position. So let's just move this a little bit towards the top. And you can see that this looks a bit more balanced, even though the distances from the top and bottom are completely different. Actually, there's a 50% difference between the top margin and the bottom margin, but that's just the way things are. Sometimes in design, you have to pay attention to how things actually look and not only their absolute geometric precision. And now you can see that when I select this whole frame, this whole password protection frame, this content is moving with the whole frame, right? That's our goal. Also, let's just really quickly change the color of the password protection frame to white and actually put a color onto the content container frame. right? So this is probably going to be like, I think we could sample the color from the button. We could do a way more light color like this with a bit less saturation. So I think we could go for something like this. And it kind of blends in with our background. So I'm just going to change the color of the background to be darker like this. Perfect. Now we are ready to turn this into a component. So I'm going to select the password protection frame and turn this into a component. I'm going to select these bullet points by pressing Command and clicking on these bullet points, and I'm going to turn this color of these bullet points to white so it looks as if it's empty, right? Next thing, I'm going to create a variant, and I'm going to just make sure these are stacked next to each other. The first variant is going to be called Start. Second variant is going to be called Ready to Enter. Another variant that will be called Password Entered, as in password is already there. And in this state, I'm going to select these bullet points and make them black, right? So the password has been entered. Then I'm going to create another variant, and this variant is going to be called Wrong Password. And then another variant that will be called Correct Password. And then one final variant, and this variant is going to be called Unlocked. So as you can see, we have 6 variants. Let's go through them again. We have Start, Ready to Enter, Password Entered, Wrong Password, Correct Password, and Unlocked. I'm going to also rename this property to be called State. So we have a bunch of states. Now we actually need to make sure the contents of these states reflect the situations, the appropriate situation. So when we first start out, there is not going to be a text field, right? So I'm just gonna hide this, right? So this is what you get. This content is password protected. Enter your password to continue. Then we get an empty password text field or password field. And from there, you can kind of move on to the next state where the password is entered. So visually, this is all right now, right? Then one of two things can happen. You can enter the correct password or the wrong password. This state is called wrong password. So I'm just gonna use my text tool to replace this text with a phrase. The password you have entered is incorrect. And we can make this really, to really drive the point home. I can use the red color to make the word incorrect actually red. And the rest is going to be black, right? Actually, I think I'm not going to use the dot. And also, I think it would be nice to change the color of the whole content container to be red, or at least very light red, something like this. So this would kind of be the color change of this state. And we could also, now that I look at it, I think we should change the wording here. Instead of enter password, this is going to be submit password. And this also means that I'm going to have to make this a bit wider like this. And same here, submit password with the button width of 223. And when you enter an incorrect password, you get the option to try again. So let's type in try again. So that's when you enter the wrong password. When you enter the correct password though, I think the background should be changed to green. Just to have some kind of confirmation you can go through, right? So I'm gonna make this light blue and change this text to say access granted, right? It's very generic, but that's just what we need. I'm gonna also make this text very much green. And also we wanna select the lock and turn this to kind of switch the state to unlocked, right? So the lock is gonna open up and you get this whole situation with the green background, access granted, and that's it, right? Also with this unlocked state, I think the color should match the text. So I'm also gonna turn this to green, maybe a bit darker than the text, still this, right? And also for the locked state of the lock, I'm gonna make this a darker gray like this. It needs to be neutral. And also in this state, this specific instance of this lock could be dark red. I'm gonna sample the color from here and then just make this a bit darker to match the whole situation. When we do a color override right here, it doesn't affect the component in any way, and also we are not specifying this on the component level, which is different from this situation right here. So with the access granted, because it's just one singular use case of this unlocked state, we're going to change that here. But as you can see, when the lock is locked, we get two colors, dark gray and red, because here the user doesn't know, or the system doesn't know, whether the user has entered a correct password, but here the system knows that, you know, password is incorrect, which should be reflected in that icon. Right, and for the final state, the unlocked state, what I'm gonna do here is actually remove the content container from this final state, so we get just this, an empty screen. And then I'm gonna select the content container from this state, from the correct password state. Hold down my Option key and then click and drag over here to this variant and then center it like this. And then what I'm gonna do is, with this clip content feature selected, I'm gonna select the content container and move this all the way over here, because we're doing a slide out animation, right? I'm gonna move this over here just outside the whole frame. And I'm gonna select all of these, and under fill, I'm gonna remove the fill. So individual states are completed. We have visualized, you know, all the states, all the situations. Now we just need to set up prototype how we will actually, or how the user will actually navigate through these individual situations. Let's go to prototype, and I'm gonna, in the first case, this is very simple, right? You get this screen, you get just one option to enter your password. So I'm gonna select the button and connect that to the second variant, like this, right? This is gonna say on tap, change to state ready to enter. Now you can see why it's useful to name your states. On tap, change to state ready to enter. It's going to be smart animate, and it's going to take 240 milliseconds, both ease in and out, and then we can continue with our prototyping. Of course, you can't really enter your password through typing in Figma, so we just have to mimic the behavior. I'm going to select the text field and then connect that over here, which means that when you click the text field, that should serve as, you know, the replacement for entering your password. This is going to change over here. So on tap, change to state password, enter. Also smart animate, also 240 milliseconds. Now here, right now it will get a bit more challenging, because we have kind of two options that we can go to from this state right here. I think the best way to go about this is just say, if you click on the password, it will behave as if you entered the wrong password, right? So on tap, change to state wrong password, smart animate, ease in and out, 240. But if you click on submit password, the prototype will act as if you created, or as if you entered the correct password. So I'm gonna connect that to the access granted state. Again, on tap, change to state correct password, smart animate, ease in and out, 240 milliseconds. We said that we want to make a slide out, move out animation, right? So what should happen here? I think we should wait maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds before we move this state towards the side and we actually reveal the secret information. So which means I'm going to select this whole variant, this whole correct password variant, and then connect that to the very last variant. Under interaction details, I'm gonna go for after delay, and the delay could be like, let's go for 2 seconds, right? 2000 milliseconds. Change to state unlocked, and then smart animate, ease in and out, 240 milliseconds. Now there are 2 more things we need to do before this is finished. First of all, when the user enters the incorrect password, they should get an option to try again, which means when they click try again, this will move them back to the very first screen. So on tap, change to state start. And then also, I want to make sure that there's some kind of path before we get to the actual password protected content, which means I'm gonna I'm gonna borrow the button from here. I'm gonna select the button, move that over here, and then I'm gonna make this button say go to secrets, right? So this is gonna be at the very center of our frame. This screen is gonna be called screen 1. This is gonna be called secrets. And I'm gonna go to prototype, select the button, and just connect that to the secrets frame, where on tab we will navigate to secrets, and it's gonna happen instantly. And also I'm gonna copy this button right here, type in go back, make this more narrow. I'm gonna put this somewhere around here, or maybe at the bottom like this. And then I'm just gonna set up that when you tap this button, you're gonna go back here. And the great thing, the very useful thing about this is you can actually put this on any frame. So this whole password protection is an interactive component, which means wherever we place this interactive component, it's gonna kind of protect our content. I'm gonna click and drag, I'm gonna go to assets and then click and drag this password protection component over here to the secrets. I'm gonna center this, and then I'm gonna select the first screen and launch the prototype. So this is what we get. We have a screen that says go to secrets. When I click that, well, our secrets are protected by a password. Now let's enter the password, which means we get this second screen where we can enter our password, and then we get two options. As I said, this can be a correct or an incorrect password. So let's say we are a bit confused, we forgot our password, so we're gonna enter an incorrect password. Oops, well that's inconvenient, isn't it? But we will not give up, which means I'm gonna try again, enter the password, type in the password, as if type in the password, and then I'm gonna submit it, and we have been granted the access, and we can see all the secrets. Now, unfortunately, there is one limitation to this prototype, and that is when we actually unlock the confidential content and then go back and then return back to the confidential content, our prototype doesn't reset to the initial state, which means we're gonna have to just press R on our keyboard to reset the whole prototype, which will then again enable us to get this interaction. But when you actually want to go back and forth, you can see that it doesn't show the password interaction anymore. I am not currently aware of any workaround. If there is anybody that is currently watching this and knows of a workaround, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to learn this. And that's it for today. If you'd like to download the source file for this interactive component, check the link in the description. If this video helped you, please leave a like. And if you're interested in Figma, definitely go and check out my channel or even subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.